If curb appeal always increased value, then every landscaped and freshly painted house would sell for more, but they don't. Curb appeal fails on most homes, not because people don't try, but because they work on the wrong parts, in the wrong order, for the wrong reason. This video isn't about a buyer's feelings or your guest's feelings. It's about how the elements of curb appeal work together to make your home worth more money. Most homeowners think curb appeal is about individual upgrades, a new door, fresh mulch, a few plants, maybe nicer lights. There's nothing wrong with those things, of course, but curb appeal is a system. And if you look at it that way, you actually spend less money on the upgrades. When the system is aligned, the home looks intentional. When it's not aligned together, even expensive individual upgrades don't move the needle. So in this video, I want to break down the systems that make up curb appeal, how they work together, and the mistakes to avoid so you don't waste or lose money. Okay, so mistake number one. Curb appeal fails when it's treated as decoration. When most people think of curb appeal, they think of just adding those decorative touches like planters, mulch, and accents. But decoration doesn't create value, structure does. Every home has a visual frame. The large surfaces that define the frame, the roof, the siding, or exterior paint, are the overall structure. You can spend money on expensive accents on the front of your house, but if the roof looks worn or the paint is faded, nothing else reads as valuable. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you should pay for a new roof or repaint the whole exterior. That's not the point. But you do need clean, consistent, and neutral enough not to distract. This is why the first step in the system, and the order is important, is power washing, paint touch-ups, straightening gutters, and roof cleaning. These alone often outperform expensive projects. The frame of your home doesn't need to be exciting. It needs to be quiet and solid. It's actually called quiet curb appeal. It doesn't mean boring. It means controlled. You don't need replacement, you need consistency, and the frame should always fade into the background so any accents or focal points that you do add can succeed. And I'll get to those in a minute. So after you stabilize the exterior by cleaning, power washing, touching up paint, and straightening gutters, then you need to reduce visual noise. What's visual noise? Visual noise is anything on the exterior that competes for attention and adds a whole bunch of accent details. It's about too many signals at once. This is not the time to go running out and buying 20 planters. It's about taking away. There's a one-sentence rule, and if you remember nothing else, remember this. If you notice 5 things at once from the street, your curb appeal is failing. High-value homes usually register one strong signal and a calm background. So visual noise are too many small statements. Remove all of them for now and start with a clean slate. I'm going to summarize the order of all these steps, by the way, at the end of the video for you, but please take a moment and subscribe. And I also have a link to my free home value checklist for you in the description below. The next mistake is ignoring the main focal point, the front door zone. Once the frame of your home is stable, the eye is now looking for a focal point. That focal point is not always, but almost always, the front door zone, which includes the door itself, the trim, the hardware, the lighting, the door numbers, the mailbox, and anything around it. This area carries more value weight per square foot than anywhere else outside the home. Why? Because it signals care, security, and intentional design. A great door with bad lighting fails. Great lighting, an appealing door, fails. The system only works when the pieces match in quality and finish. So if you're spending just a little money here, this is where upgrades compound. A well-scaled light fixture, modern hardware, and a clean, properly painted door. The front door zone is one of the few areas where modest upgrades dramatically raise value. The next mistake is landscaping that overwhelms the architecture. Landscaping creates value when it supports the architecture, not when it competes with it. So high-value landscaping does 3 things. It grounds the home at the base. It frames, not hides windows and doors. It respects scale, nothing too tall, too busy, or too sparse. Mulch alone doesn't create value. Plants alone don't create value. Structure creates value. So what does that mean? Avoid overgrown beds. Instead, focus on creating very clear, clean bed lines and have some spacing that allows the house to breathe. Avoid too many different kinds of plants. Instead, focus on fewer but consistent plant types and avoid plants that are too tall or busy. Here's a trick. If you want to make the front of your home seem wider than it is in the front, place the two tallest plants or shrubs on the far sides and the lower plants in between around the front door and the path. You want to scale where you ground the house, making the house the star, and you can still see pretty windows and your interesting architecture. And by the way, one of my favorite landscaping tricks, especially if the front door zone isn't great, is to make a statement tree your focal point. I'm going to get to focal points in a minute, but if you have a beautiful tree on your front lawn, I like to create a circle around the base with rocks and fill it in with mulch or pretty plants or even ground cover. It looks so nice and can be a very expensive and dramatic looking focal point. Next is not having a crystal clear path and approach, how you arrive. Value is created by clarity. The path to the door should be extremely obvious, unobstructed, and proportional to the home. We've all seen those homes where you're not sure which way to approach the front door. You know, if someone can't instinctively understand how to approach the home, the exterior feels unresolved, even if it's beautiful. If there is no obvious path, are they walking up the driveway, across the grass? If there is a path, common value killers are narrow or cracked walkways, landscaping that blocks the path, or steps that feel uneven or poorly lit. Okay, let's talk about those competing focal points. You want to avoid things like several accent colors fighting each other, like bold shutters next to a super bright front door, multiple planter styles, mixed house numbers, seasonal decor layered on permanent decor, a lonely or random bench on the front lawn. When everything is special, nothing is special. So you might want to eliminate some accents, and this goes back to the quiet curb appeal. Create and decide on a clear focal point for the eye to go to. Next mistake is having one lonely light doing all the work, where a single porch light over the front door is trying to light the entire facade. It makes the house look flat, creates harsh shadows, and while the front door is lit, guests walk up a dark path. You don't have to spend thousands on a whole new lighting system, okay? Light where it matters, not everywhere. Choose another feature to highlight, like a tree, an architectural detail, the house numbers, or better yet, the path. It adds depth to the frame and reinforces a focal point, especially if you spend money on that focal point. And by the way, I'll be doing a whole video soon just on lighting, so keep a lookout for that one. That's going to be good. Another mistake is using mismatched eras and finishes, like modern light fixtures with traditional trim, new door hardware next to faded paint, or any updated elements surrounded by dated ones. Your brain reads this as like a partial update, not really a valuable improvement. So consistency here is important, and small upgrades can outperform decorative ones. Buyers and your guests need hierarchy. They need to know where to look, where to walk, and what matters. They need a quiet background, a defined path, and a focused entry. So let's review the steps to creating good curb appeal as a system. Look at the order, because later layers depend on the earlier ones. So if your goal is value, not just decoration, here's the order that delivers the best return. Begin by removing things first and then upgrading with detail. So to review, clean and stabilize the frame. Wash, touch up, neutralize. Upgrade the front door zone as a set. Door, lighting, hardware. Clarify the path and approach, simplify and structure the landscaping. And finally, add or refine exterior lighting. Remember what it means to have quiet curb appeal. It's not overwhelming with a million accents. It's about directing the eye from or steering toward the best features of your property and away from less valuable features. So thanks again for watching. The link to the free home value checklist is below. I hope you'll hit subscribe, and I will see you next time.